There's a rule that has nothing to do with how much money you make, and it completely changed how I save. It starts with $1, but it's not about the dollar. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why the amount was never the point. Before I explain it, I want to tell you something most finance videos won't say. If you've tried to save money before and failed, it's not because you're bad with money. It's because almost everyone starts saving the wrong way. They start big. They start with a number that sounds impressive, and then 2 weeks later, life happens, and the whole plan falls apart. I know, because that's exactly what happened to me. A couple of years ago, I decided I was going to fix my finances once and for all. I made a plan to save $500 a month. It looked great on paper. For about 11 days, I actually did it. Then my car needed a repair, a friend's birthday came up, and suddenly that $500 goal felt like a joke I had played on myself. I felt like a failure, so I did what most people do. I gave up completely. Not just on the $500, on saving in general. If I couldn't hit the big number, why bother with anything smaller? That's the trap. We treat saving like an all-or-nothing test. But that's not true. The problem was never me. The problem was the size of the goal compared to the size of my consistency. So a few months later, almost as a joke, I tried something different. I decided to save exactly $1 a day. Not 10, not 20. One single dollar every single day, no matter what. It felt almost silly. $1 doesn't buy you anything. It barely covers a fraction of a coffee. My brain kept telling me this was pointless, that it wasn't going to make a real difference. But I kept going anyway, because it was so small that skipping it felt more effortful than just doing it. And here's where it gets interesting. After about 2 weeks, something shifted. I wasn't just putting away $1. I was doing something every single day related to my money. I was checking in. I was making a decision, even a tiny one, instead of avoiding the topic completely. The dollar itself was almost irrelevant. What mattered was that I was building a habit of paying attention, one day at a time, without the pressure of a big, scary number hanging over my head. This is the part that most people miss about saving money. It's not primarily a math problem. It's a psychology problem. Our brains are wired to avoid things that feel overwhelming, and a $500 monthly goal feels overwhelming when you're just starting out. But a single dollar? Nobody's brain panics over a single dollar. There's no fear response, no excuse strong enough to skip it. And because there's no resistance, you actually do it. Every day, consistently. Think about it like exercise. If someone who has never worked out in their life decides their first workout is going to be a 2-hour gym session, they'll probably do it once, feel destroyed, and never go back. But if that same person commits to 5 minutes of movement a day, something they can literally do while watching television, they'll actually keep doing it. And after a month of 5 minutes a day, they've built something far more valuable than any single 2-hour session. A habit. Saving money works exactly the same way. Here's what actually happened with my $1 rule over time. And this is the part that surprised me the most. Once the habit was locked in, once checking in with my money and setting something aside became automatic, I didn't feel restricted anymore. I started noticing small amounts I could redirect without even feeling it. The $2 I would have spent on nothing, a subscription I wasn't using, a little bit here and there. The amount I was saving quietly grew, not because I forced myself to save more, but because the habit itself created room for more. In 6 months, I wasn't just saving $1 a day anymore. I was saving significantly more, without it ever feeling like a sacrifice. Because I never had to break the habit and rebuild it from scratch the way I did with my $500 failure. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, because I thought it too. $1 a day isn't going to change my life. What's the point? And you're right. Mathematically, $1 a day is $365 a year. That's not life-changing on its own. But you're missing what the dollar is actually for. The dollar isn't the goal. The dollar is the entry point. It's the smallest possible action that gets you to show up every day. And showing up every day is the only thing that actually builds a real, lasting habit. Nobody fails at saving because their amount was too small. People fail because they quit. And people quit when the goal feels too big to sustain. Another objection I hear a lot is, I don't have room in my budget for even $1. And I understand that fear, especially if things feel tight right now. But here's the truth. This rule isn't really about the money existing in your budget. It's about training the behavior. If genuinely, truly, a single dollar a day would break your finances, that tells you something important that has nothing to do with this rule, and everything to do with needing a bigger conversation about your income or expenses. But for the vast majority of people watching this, the resistance isn't really financial. It's psychological. It's the discomfort of starting something, however small, because starting means admitting you haven't been doing it. So how do you actually put this into practice? Here's the simple version. Pick $1. It can be cash in a jar. It can be $1 transferred into a separate savings account. It can even be tracked in a note on your phone if that's easier for you right now. The method matters less than the consistency. Do it at the same time every day if you can. right after you wake up, or right before you go to sleep, so it becomes attached to something you already do automatically. Don't judge the amount. Don't compare it to what other people are saving. The whole point of this rule is that it's not supposed to feel impressive. It's supposed to feel almost too easy to skip. After 30 days, don't increase the amount yet. Let the habit fully settle first. This is the part people rush, and rushing it is what breaks the whole system. Give yourself a full month of simply proving to your own brain that you're someone who shows up for your money every day, even in the smallest way. Once that identity starts to feel true, once you actually believe, I'm someone who saves consistently, increasing the amount becomes almost natural. You're not forcing discipline anymore. You're just continuing something that already feels like who you are. Let me tell you what this looked like in practice, because I think the specifics matter more than the theory. In my case, I used a simple note on my phone. Every night, right before I put my phone down to sleep, I would open that note and add a line, the date, and $1. Some nights, I actually transferred the money into a separate account. Other nights, especially early on, I just wrote it down as a commitment and moved the actual dollar the next morning. It didn't need to be perfect. It needed to happen. What I noticed after about 3 weeks was strange. I started checking my note not out of obligation, but out of something closer to curiosity. I wanted to see the streak. I wanted to see how many days in a row I had shown up. And that's when I realized this rule had quietly turned into something completely different from what I expected. It wasn't a savings method anymore. It was proof, written down every single day, that I was capable of following through on something related to my money. That proof is worth more than almost any amount you could save in a single month, because it's the thing that makes every future financial decision easier. Here's something worth understanding about why this works on a deeper level. Every time you make a decision and follow through on it, your brain files that away as evidence about who you are. If you set a goal and break it, your brain quietly updates its model of you. This is someone who doesn't follow through. And the next time you try to set a goal, that model works against you, because some part of you already expects to fail. But when you set an achievable goal and hit it day after day, your brain updates that model in the other direction. This is someone who follows through, even when it's small. That updated identity doesn't stay contained to just the dollar. It starts leaking into other areas. People who complete the $1 challenge for 30 days often report that they also started paying closer attention to other spending, not because they forced themselves to, but because the identity of someone who pays attention to money was already forming. I also want to address a slightly different objection, one that's less about the money and more about pride. Some people feel almost embarrassed by how small this rule is. It feels too easy, too simple, like it can't possibly be a real strategy compared to spreadsheets, investment accounts, or complicated budgeting systems. But complexity was never the thing missing from your financial life. If complicated systems worked by themselves, nobody would ever fail at budgeting, because there's no shortage of budgeting apps, templates, and spreadsheets in the world. What's actually missing, for most people, is a starting point small enough that failure isn't an option. The $1 rule isn't the finish line. It's the on-ramp. Once the habit exists, you can absolutely add a budget, a spreadsheet, an investment account, anything you want, on top of it. But none of those tools work without the underlying habit of consistently paying attention. And that's exactly what this rule builds first. There's one more thing I think is worth mentioning, because it surprised me the most. Around month 4, I had a week where money was genuinely tight. In the past, that would have been the moment I quietly abandoned the whole plan, the same way I abandoned the $500 goal after 11 days. But because the commitment was just $1, I didn't have to choose between keep going and give up. I could keep the habit alive even during a hard week, because a single dollar is almost never actually impossible, even when things are difficult. That's the real power of starting this small. The habit survives contact with real life, which is exactly the thing that destroys every ambitious goal that never accounts for a bad week. This is really the whole secret behind the $1 rule, and honestly behind most lasting change with money. It was never about the dollar. It was about becoming, one tiny action at a time, the kind of person who doesn't avoid their finances. Once you become that person, the amount takes care of itself. If you've tried bigger goals before and they fell apart, I want you to try this instead, starting today, not next Monday. Pick your dollar. Decide where it's going to go. And do it once, right now if you can, before you close this video. Not because $1 will change your life today, but because doing it today means you've already started becoming someone who does. If this helped you, follow along for more content like this. No judgment here, just learning together, one small step at a time.